Meghan with her super stardust, which is why people like you are so peeved, because she turned her back on Britain. I understand we can sort out some counselling for you, Kelvin.
I'm peeved about her
you will
actions.
recover from this.
Why doesn't she come back? Why doesn't she come back to the UK and wave to us all?
Because she thinks people like Kelvin McKenzie are going to be all.
Well, I'm entitled to a view.
That's true, though,
and so
isn't it,
are
Jacob?
you. You're entitled to a view, but that shouldn't stop her coming out and giving her views to our country.
They thought it would be just another easy Meghan bashing session on GB News. Another day, another headline, another middle-aged man puffing up his chest about duty and betrayal. But what they didn't expect was Dr. Tessa Dunlop, calm, educated, and absolutely not here for the nonsense, stepping in like the voice of reason they never knew they needed. So there they were, Tessa Dunlop and Kelvin McKenzie, sat on opposite ends of the GB News sofa, the air already thick with that familiar disdain anytime Meghan Markle's name gets brought up. The title of the segment? Sussexes to travel to Nigeria to discover Meghan's roots. And just like that, Kelvin's face twitched. You could practically hear the kettle boiling behind his eyes. Kelvin launched first, like he always does, loud, aggressive, and absolutely convinced of his own righteousness. He called the trip a slap in the face to Britain, claimed Meghan had abandoned her duties to chase vanity projects in Nigeria. But then he took it further. He leaned in, practically fuming, asking why Meghan didn't just come back to Britain. Why doesn't she stand on our streets, wave to us, and give her views to our country? Oh, the audacity. Because you know what that question really means? It's not curiosity, it's entitlement. It's the same old story we've seen over and over, demanding access to Meghan's life, her voice, her body, her presence, as if the UK owns her, as if the same nation that dragged her through the headlines, distorted her every word, mocked her tears, questioned her identity, suddenly deserves her public grace and gratitude? But Tessa didn't flinch. She turned to him, eyebrows slightly raised, her voice calm but razor sharp. "Can you blame her?" she asked, and just like that, the power dynamic shifted. Because the truth is, no one can blame her. Not if you've been paying attention. Not if you've seen what this country did to her. Tessa laid it out point by point. Meghan tried, she really did. She played by the rules. She gave the British press access. She smiled, wore the beige coats, kept her head down, showed up for duty. And what did she get? A masterclass in British media cruelty, racist dog whistles, relentless comparison, dehumanization so deep it had a palace-approved silence echoing around it. Kelvin, ever the tabloid dinosaur, scoffed at the idea that Meghan had been mistreated. He claimed she had, opportunities. He called her privileged, and that, right there, is the gaslighting of it all. The refusal to admit the cost of emotional violence, especially when it's masked behind red carpet photos and royal tiaras. Tessa wasn't having it. She reminded the viewers, gently because that's her style, that Meghan's trip to Nigeria wasn't a PR stunt. It was a soul-level experience, an embrace from a nation that didn't just tolerate her blackness, it celebrated it. Something the UK never managed to do. And here's where it got really real. When Kelvin kept shouting, kept pointing, trying to bulldoze the conversation like it was still 1995 and he was still running a tabloid, Tessa just turned to him, calm as anything, and said, "Please don't point your finger at me. That's terribly rude." A mic drop without raising her voice. A checkmate without breaking a sweat. That moment? It wasn't just television, it was justice. Because this wasn't just a spat over geography. This was a moral crossroads. Kelvin stood for a version of Britain that sees Meghan as property, a place where women, especially women of color, must prove themselves again and again just to be seen as human, where leaving a toxic environment is framed as betrayal, where coming back means crawling back. But Tessa spoke for the future, a Britain that listens, questions, grows, a Britain that finally understands that Meghan didn't run away from duty. She ran toward healing. She didn't reject the crown rejected her. And now that she's thriving elsewhere, they want her back. Not to celebrate her, but to control her again. So no, Meghan doesn't need to wave at anyone in the UK. She doesn't owe that stage, that balcony, or those cynical crowds a single smile. She waved goodbye, and that was the most powerful move of all. Let's talk about that phrase Kelvin kept using. Why doesn't she give her views to our country? But she did, didn't she? She said the system was cruel. She said she wasn't protected. She said she had suicidal thoughts. And what did the country do? Laughed, dismissed her, mocked her for being dramatic? So really, what Kelvin wants isn't Meghan's views. He wants her silence disguised as obedience. Her performance, not her truth. He wants the idea of her, the docile duchess smiling on cue, without the reality of her humanity. And here's the irony. While Kelvin is busy yelling on GB News, Meghan is busy showing love, building bridges, and being met with adoration across Africa. She doesn't need the media circus. She doesn't need the fake smiles. She's found something real, something liberating, something British institutions never gave her: belonging. So when Tessa stood her ground, she wasn't just defending Meghan. She was defending every woman who said enough, every outsider who chose themselves, every voice that dared to speak out and was told to shut up. And that's why her moment on GB News went viral. Not because she shouted, but because she stood in truth. She didn't match Kelvin's volume, she exceeded him in grace. To the viewers at home, it was clear. This wasn't about royalty anymore. It was about dignity. It was about who gets to be heard. And it was about time someone like Tessa stepped into that studio and told the truth out loud. So let's close this out with the one thing that was never said directly on air, but, kind of screamed between the lines. Meghan Markle doesn't need Britain anymore. She doesn't need its headlines, its scrutiny, or its gatekeepers. And frankly, Britain never deserved her in the first place. So next time someone like Kelvin McKenzie asks why Meghan doesn't come back and wave to us, just remind them of this. Some people choose healing over performance, and some countries give you a crown while others give you peace. Meghan made her choice, and baby, we should all be that brave. Because here's what people like Kelvin refuse to understand. Healing isn't betrayal, it's revolution. And sometimes the loudest thing you can do is leave and live well. Meghan didn't just walk away, she rose. And when a black woman chooses joy after being dragged through the mud, that joy becomes resistance. And it's funny, isn't it? For all the noise the UK media makes about Meghan not being royal enough, the people who actually crown her with love are sitting in Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Cape Town. Because royalty isn't about bloodlines anymore, it's about how you make people feel. And in Nigeria, Meghan was treated like a queen, no tiara necessary. So the next time a GB News panel lights up with red-faced rage and powdered nationalism, just remember this. The future won't be found in those angry rants. It's in moments like Tessa's, quiet, sharp, grounded in facts. It's in Meghan's smile as she dances with Nigerian children. It's in every person who says no more performance, just peace. Like, subscribe and, drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Tessa remind us all what real media dignity looks like? Is Meghan's journey actually a blueprint for choosing sanity over ceremony? And remember, when the headlines get loud, listen harder for the quiet ones. That's where the real truth lives. That's where the power breathes. And that's where the future, unbothered, uncolonized, and unshaken, is being written. Until next time, keep your spirit high and your standards even higher. Let them shout. We'll thrive in the silence.